Hello everyone, my name is Jeffrey Anderson. Welcome back to the Sports Porch. I'm mad. I just want to get right into it. You probably see the title of this video. It's probably a rant warning in there somewhere. This will be a ranty video for sure. Just watch out for that. So if you didn't hear, this weekend Joe Burrow tore his ACL. MCL basically damaged his knee. He'll be out 9 to 12 months, basically a calendar year. And this sucks. This is terrible, and the Bengals are all to blame for this happening. So I wanted to kind of make this video as an open letter to NFL GMs / owners on how to not ruin your franchise quarterback, basically, and the risk that you run with ruining your franchise quarterback and how you do that. So let's go ahead, let's just get into it. So basically this whole video is going to be going through examples in the past of how franchises have ruined quarterbacks' careers by making one stupid mistake and not correcting it for their entire careers. And that is with, you can probably guess, the offensive line. Now you may be wondering, why the offensive line? Why is the offensive line so important? Well, it's really the only position that can protect your quarterback from taking big hits. If you have a bad O-line, one of two things is going to happen. Number one, they will get hurt, like we've seen with Joe Burrow, like we saw with Andrew Luck all those years, and we'll get to that. Number two, they will get sacked into oblivion, which we also saw with Joe Burrow. We've seen that with Carson Wentz this year. We will talk about him a little bit as well. And when your quarterback gets sacked, this causes a multitude of problems in their brain, not just from the CTE they'll probably get from you letting them turn their brain into paste. This can include hurting their confidence, speeding up their decision-making process for the worse. Getting hurt also causes concerns with timidness down the line when they come back. Who knows, will Joe Burrow be scared to step up in the pocket and maybe take a shot throwing the ball downfield anymore? We'll have to wait and see. So I just want to go through some examples here of young quarterbacks having their careers basically ruined by either by their organization's incompetence to surround them with a good team, especially at the O-line position. Anyway, my first example, I'm sorry, I'm kind of rambling here because I'm really mad about this. So my first example is David Carr. Now, David Carr was a quarterback drafted in 2002. The Houston Texans took him with their first overall pick. He had a monster senior year at Fresno State, 4,839 yards, 46 touchdowns, only 9 interceptions. He was regarded as a great passer coming out of college with some pretty decent decision making. However, he had a really weird throwing motion and he really wasn't that mobile, and that part comes into play a little bit later. So he still was widely viewed as the next NFL star, a perennial Pro Bowler, MVP candidate, cornerstone of this new Texans team when they drafted him. However, this did not happen. And you want to know why? Because the Houston Texans were an expansion team. So they were building from nothing, so their offensive line sucked. This caused David Carr to get sacked 76 times, with the next closest being Drew Bledsoe at Buffalo with 54 sacks. This is still the NFL's single season record for sacks, and this wouldn't lighten with his tenure at Houston either. He would consistently lead the league in sacks. 2 more times that happened, and he was top 10 another. This clearly affected him in his ability to play. He had 59 touchdowns and 65 interceptions over his 5-year span, leading to a pretty terrible 22-53 record. So after his rookie deal is over with Houston, he goes on, becomes a journeyman back up in the NFL, largely thought of as this huge bust. Teammates were saying when he left that he was basically a shell of his former self. His confidence had been driven through the ground. And who knows, maybe he wouldn't have been great. There were reports that David Carr, even if he had a good team around him, he wasn't passionate about the game, this, that, or the other. But it doesn't even matter, because we didn't even get to see him have a chance at that because of how terrible the offensive line was at Houston all those years he was there. Next example, a guy who actually did have a decent amount of success in the NFL, but was again ruined by his O-line, this being Dante Culpepper for the Minnesota Vikings. Now, he was drafted in 1999, but he wouldn't play until the 2000 season at age 23. He was widely regarded, or he is widely regarded today, as a great QB who was never really the same since he got hurt. And while this is true, there's a reason for him getting hurt, and the story goes much deeper than that. And that story, as you could probably tell, is from his terrible offensive line. Now, at Minnesota, he was a great QB. He had 135 touchdowns, a lot of interceptions. He had 86 there. But he was a dual threat quarterback. He was very mobile. He had around 3,300 passing yards with a little over 400 rushing yards. That's his average per season at his time at Minnesota. However, he was also consistently ranked in the top 10 in the NFL in sacks, including in 2004 when he was second only behind our good friend David Carr with 46. And then everybody knows in 2005 on that play, he tears his ACL. But what you probably didn't notice is what happens in the pocket. You can see on this play, he's getting rushed from up the middle. He feels the pressure. He ducks out to the left of the pocket, gets into the open field, only to get his knee blown out by Chris Gamble on what is back then a clean hit. After tearing his ACL, which was in his contract year, by the way, that was his 5th year, he would go to Miami, then Oakland, and finish his career in Detroit, never returning to that great player that he once was in Minnesota. It is really a shame what could have been with him, especially having Chris Carter and Randy Moss as his wide receivers. You know, there's speculation that, well, if Culpepper had never gotten hurt, would Moss even have gotten traded to New England? Would he have stayed a Viking his entire career? We don't know. We're robbed of that because of his terrible offensive line. And another thing, he got hurt at age 28, and like I said before, in a contract year. So he didn't get that big extension, and he also got basically the prime of his career washed away. And maybe there's a chance that if he doesn't tear that ACL in 2005, due to his poor O-line play, honestly, he makes it into the Hall of Fame. And I think everybody can agree on that. So my first example was of a quarterback, David Carr, and an expansion team who I guess you could understand if he was if he didn't get the protection he needed, because, you know, they're a new team. It takes time to build an offensive line, whatever. Second guy, Dante Culpepper. You could say he was a dual threat quarterback. He would put himself at risk a lot on the run, things of that nature. That could have attributed to some of the sacks he had. But this last example, I think you guys all know who I'm going to talk about here, Andrew Luck. This is just a case of an organization failing to address the problems they have. Andrew Luck, coming out of college, probably one of the most highly touted prospects we've ever seen. People were giving him Peyton Manning comparisons, especially because of the fact that he was going to the Colts, and he displayed his talent throughout his career. He showed that he could be the next Peyton Manning. He was really big, strong arm, made good decisions, but not without trouble. And this trouble came in the form of a multitude of injuries through his whole career, which came at the expense of his O-line. He had a sprained shoulder, a lacerated kidney, torn cartilage in his shoulder, which he played through, concussions, and shoulder, get it right. Shoulder surgery, which would keep him out for a year, which would eventually lead to the premature end of his career when he retired at just 30 years old, the peak of his athletic prime. He has stated in the past that 2016 really haunted him, and he still got emotional scars from that, and that was a big deal in playing into his decision to retire. And I don't blame him, honestly. I mean, for years he tried to play through the pain, get back on the field for his team, and the Colts consistently failed him by failing to provide him basic protection in his offensive line. Because of this, the Colts got bit in the ass later on when in 2019 they had a really good team. They had finally addressed the O-line and had one of the better O-lines in the league, and they were projected to be a Super Bowl pick right up until the point where Andrew Luck retired. And this came as a shock to everybody, myself, including the Colts themselves, who didn't even know. But honestly, the warning signs were there. with Andrew Luck, and it really shouldn't have been this surprising to see how everything had gone up to this point. I mean, how could you have faith in an organization who has let you down since day one? And in your head now, you're wondering, they're the reason that I have all these injuries, aren't they? They're the reason that I'm so messed up in the head, that I continue to have nightmares about 2016, all this type of stuff. Andrew Luck's career is the biggest tragedy out of these three, and it really does hurt me to see him have to go through that stuff. And now it hurts me even more to see that Joe Burrow could potentially go through this stuff. So here at the end of the video, I want to give a warning to the following teams. These are teams that either have young quarterbacks right now or teams that are presumed to be getting young quarterbacks in the future. First off, Houston. Deshaun Watson has been abused since you got there. The same way, in fact, that Andrew Luck was since he entered the league. He has already torn his ACL, and that was in practice, let alone on the field, and he can't continue to take the abuse that he gets. Yes, does he truck some guys sometimes? Is he a tough player? Yes, but eventually getting sacked that much, you will get hurt. So you made a good move by locking up Laremy Tunsil, even though you did wildly overpay for him. But you need to do more than that to get him out of the top 10 QBs sacked per year. You have a legitimate top 3 quarterback in the league. He's got that potential. Please, for our sake, for the NFL's sake, do not ruin that. The Eagles. Carson Wentz looks human this year. He looks bad. Being sacked 40 times through 10 games might have something to do with that. I understand you have injuries across the whole field like you usually do. Here, I'll give you an idea. Fire your entire athletic training staff. Fire whoever is getting these guys ready to go on the field. Redo your turf. I don't know what you have to do. Get your guys healthy so they can protect Carson Wentz so that he is healthy. If not, you're going to be looking back at that big contract you gave him like, oh crap, that was not worth it at all. Next up, both of the New York teams, New York squared as I like to call them, Giants and the Jets. It's pretty clear, I think, at this point that both of you are going to move on to your next quarterbacks. And the reason why is from the poor play of both of them, both Daniel Jones and Sam Darnold. And New York, you helped contribute to this. With your poor offensive line play, he was constantly getting sacked. And yes, Daniel Jones isn't the best in the pocket. He has some pretty shaky pocket presence at times, but he's consistently in the top 10 in sacked quarterbacks. And that does not help someone who's already got some shaky decision making in Danny Dimes. Sam Darnold is a shell of himself, thanks to your suckiness, Jets. I don't even know what to say for you guys. You guys are just terrible. You ruin everything you touch. I don't even know what to say at this point. Mekhi Becton and Andrew Thomas were some really good starting points, especially Mekhi Becton. He's really working out. These are steps in the right direction, but they're not enough. Please, I am begging you, give Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields, who I know you're both going to draft, the support that they need when they get there. Otherwise, you might as well just forget about even playing them, unless you want a Joe Burrow case on your hands. And then finally, we get to the crown jewel. The reason I made this whole video, Cincinnati. Please don't ruin Joe Burrow for us more than you already have. He had what I would say is the best college football season we've ever seen from a quarterback position. One of the best prospects we've ever seen at the quarterback position. Your O-line caused that injury, whether you like it or not. Michael Jordan literally pushed that defensive guy into Joe Burrow, destroying his knee. I hope that, along with the fact that Joe Burrow was the third most sacked quarterback up until this point, is a little bit of a wake-up call for you to get some damn help on that team. There's a lineman at Oregon by the name of Penei Sewell. You might have heard of him. If you don't draft him, Joe Burrow might as well just not even play. If I was Joe Burrow and I saw you didn't draft Penei Sewell, I would literally request a trade from your team. You guys would be so incompetent to do something like that, but you are the Bengals, so I could see you doing something like that. Also, here's another thing. I went ahead as some random guy on the internet and did a little bit of research to help you get some linemen that you could potentially overpay and bring in to protect Burrow as well. Trent Williams is a guy, assuming he even wants to come play for you. Brandon Scherf, assuming he doesn't get a deal done with Washington. Russell Okung, he could be a great low-buy guy, especially because of his injury concerns, but he is injured a lot. There's that. Alex Mack could be on the market if the Falcons don't want him back for a rebuild. Corey Linsley could come with some big money, but I'm a Packers fan, so you probably shouldn't take him. Even Alejandro Villanueva, if the Steelers decide that because of his age, maybe they don't want him back. Same goes for Mike Iupati. He could potentially leave Seattle as well. The point is, you have to get some more offensive line help in there for sure. This is a surefire way to at least say that you tried. And the reason why you have to overpay these guys is because you have to protect Joe Burrow. It's like buying insurance for your car, basically. You don't necessarily understand sometimes why you have to, but it's there in case you need it. And you have a big crash, like, oh yeah, you did this last week. I am begging you. The NFL is begging you. Everyone is begging you. Cincinnati, do not turn him into the next Andrew Luck, please. Anyway, that's the end of this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. What are your thoughts on this situation? How do you think that Cincinnati can improve on their team in general, specifically with like the offensive line? If you liked the video, make sure you hit the thumbs up on it and turn on the notifications so you never miss another NFL video. You can stay up to date with me on all my social media links there in the description below. I thank you guys so much for watching this rant. Oh, the Bengals make me mad. And I will see you guys on the next one.